Welcome to In-House Counsel and HR Perspectives, where business leaders discuss the collaboration between in-house legal teams, human resources professionals, and the communities they serve. Now let's get started.
Hello and welcome to In-House Counsel and HR Perspectives. I'm your host, David Hall, the Chief Administrative Officer here at Hall Benefits Law. This is a podcast that's dedicated to exploring how in-house counsel and other corporate leaders collaborate to drive compliance, innovation, and business success. At HBL, we help businesses maximize the value of their employee benefit plans while minimizing legal risk. And as such, we are very excited to present these conversations and viewpoints. So today I'm honored to welcome Aaron Sack, partner in the insurance practice at Smith & Howard CPA. Aaron brings a wealth of expertise in employee benefit plans, financial assurance, and compliance. And as a CPA, she plays a critical role in guiding organizations across industries to ensure financial integrity and compliance with evolving regulations. Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. I'm excited to talk to you today. Today, guys, we're going to talk about how CPAs contribute to employee benefit plan compliance, the challenges businesses face relative to financial reporting for benefit plans, and some best practices for collaboration between legal, HR, and other service providers, which is really the purpose of this podcast. So, Aaron, I'll just jump right in and ask you our first question. How are you enjoying this crazy winter weather in Atlanta?
It's been crazy going from 10 degrees to summer weather last week. The air conditioning, I think, came on in my house over the weekend. So, we're going from 10 degrees to 80 degrees, and my kids were loving the snow a few weeks ago, and then wearing shorts last week. So, it's nice, but, it's crazy at the same time. So.
Well, we're all grateful for a sunny day today. I'm naturally lit here by the window, so it is a roller coaster. So tell us a little bit, Aaron, about your path to becoming a CPA, and you go back as far as you like in terms of what made you interested in that career path, and then maybe a bit deeper into what took you further into the role that you find yourself in now, which is a partner in the insurance practice at Smith & Howard. Local Atlanta-based and national CPA firm. Tell us a little bit about your journey and who you are.
Well, I started out at UGA. I'm a Georgia Bulldog, so Atlanta born and raised. I'm not really sure when I made that decision to become a CPA. I just always kind of gravitated towards math, I guess. Kind of thought maybe I'll go down that road of being an accountant. And then I've been with Smith & Howard my entire career. Started out as an intern many years ago. I've been with the firm for about, 16 years now. So did a couple of internships during college. And I actually got to experience both sides of the house during my internships. So I got to see both tax and audit. So that was interesting. And I picked the audit side, as you can tell. And then I kind of went down the path of EBP, going towards EBPs throughout my career. I mean, I've worked on, of course, I work on both financial statement audits and EBPs, but I specialize in benefit plan audits. I just have always, liked the compliance nature of benefit plan audits, and it's, there's a lot of, automation and technology type things that we can do with the benefit plan audits that I've always kind of gravitated towards. I'm very into the technology pieces of our profession. I've always kind of been involved in that piece on the audit side. And so I've kind of gravitated toward the benefit plan audits, I think, because of that. So we do a lot of automation and use a lot of technology on the EBP side of the house, and I think that's kind of helped me kind of gravitate towards that side.
Aaron, if you don't mind, could you give me an example maybe of something that's different today than it was when you started from the perspective of technology and how you use it in your role?
Sure. So one thing that maybe is a good example of where we use technology in our benefit plan audits is that we perform remittance testing. We do that 100%. Whereas maybe some other firms just do that on a test basis. We actually look at remittances 100%. So we're basically comparing, this is what came out of payroll and this is what went into the plan, and we're able to kind of test that 100% using technology. And we can do that very quickly, basically with like a click of a button, and we've created a script that using a technology called IDEA that kind of runs that very quickly in about a minute. Whereas, before we did that, we were just testing, okay, we're going to take, maybe 5 payrolls and make sure that those 5 payrolls made it into the plan. And we weren't looking at it on an individual basis, like this person contributed this much and it made it into their account, and we can look at that 100%, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so that's something that we developed however many years ago that we definitely were not doing when I started my career, that kind of thing.
So we shouldn't think of you at work with a pencil and paper working out long division of some kind.
Definitely not.
So let's shift a little bit to your day to day. And the purpose of our podcast again is to connect leaders within the industry, whether they're CPAs, in-house counsel, HR professionals, and to have a conversation around collaboration and how we can work together better. Messaging that we all can share with our common clients. Tell me a little bit, Aaron, about how your team at Smith & Howard collaborates with HR, legal, and even finance departments, both within your client and also without your client, other third-party vendors, like HBL, for example, to help ensure the proper administration and oversight of those benefit plans.
Well, during the audit process, we like to kind of think, we're of course auditing the plan and making sure that everything is done properly and whatnot, but we like to think of ourselves as, part of the team, I guess, we don't want to be, the bad guys, of course, right, coming in and just telling you what you're doing wrong and all that. We want to be thought of as, collaborators, like you're saying, and helping our clients, throughout the year with doing the right thing and advising them on, what they can do better, making sure that they have the proper controls and, they're doing the proper fiduciary, that, they're acting in the right ways to do their fiduciary responsibilities properly and whatnot. Working with people like your team and whatnot, and TPAs and other third-party service providers to make sure that everybody's kind of doing the right thing and working together as a team, basically, to make sure that the plan is running properly, I guess, if that's, the right way to describe.
No, I think that's excellent. I'll tell you, I've often described this world of employee benefits as an ecosystem, and you have people who are dependent on one another, and if you remove one of those pieces, the whole system falls apart. And I think that's true, especially of the CPA piece, because there is so much oversight that's required, and there's so many things that the law just requires that people do every year as a matter of course, related to dollars and cents, and CPAs are uniquely suited to do that. So I love that idea of a team and working within the team. So knowing that, more specifically to your role as a CPA and EBP, Employee Benefit Plan audits, what are the biggest compliance challenges that you're actually seeing within these plans? And then maybe tell us a little bit more about the types of plans you're looking at, so that we can sort of differentiate between what you're doing and what somebody might be doing on a different type of plan?
So the vast majority of the plans that we're auditing are 401ks, defined contribution plan, 403bs as well, but mostly 401ks, defined contribution plans. Of course, DB, defined benefit plans, are becoming less and less of a thing these days, but we still audit a handful of those, and then a handful of health and welfare plans, and then some ESOPs as well, but the vast majority are defined contribution plans. And then the compliance issues that we find, majority of the time are of course going to be your late remittances, where the plan is not remitting funds on a timely basis, or maybe they're missing remitting funds completely. We'll find that a lot of time, and that goes back to like that test that I was talking about earlier, where we can find that very easily with the automation with that test that we have, and then also eligible compensation is another area where that's probably that, and late deferrals is probably the vast majority of issues that we find. And when we find that problem, that's when we call you guys. That's when we tell them to call you guys. So that's, especially if it goes back, very far. Typically that's, when we pick up a new plan audit, or it's an initial audit where they've never been audited before, we're going to find that almost every time, I feel like. It's a brand new.
Bring in the ERISA paralegal and start unwind some things.
And it could go back to, when the plan started, a lot of the time. So it's, let's call the ERISA attorneys and figure out the best way to fix this, but yeah, it's typically going to be the eligible compensation, and then of course late remittances into the plan. Those are the biggest problem areas that we run into in our audits.
Very interesting. So Smith & Howard is a company that's growing rapidly. It's been fun to watch the acquisitions and the growth, and people being promoted to partner, and new leadership, and just the fantastic old guard of leadership that continues just to be a steady force of innovation, and staying up to date in the industry. I think you guys do that really well. Like HBL, you serve clients across many different industries. And so as a law firm, what we see is that some industries are more risk tolerant than others. That would be my answer to the question I'm going to ask you now. How do you see, or do you see a difference in how different industries are approaching the legal requirements around what you're helping them with? Are you seeing different types of problems within different industries, or is it just a matter of making sure everybody's got all their boxes checked?
Let's see.
I know that's a little bit of a curveball and a hard question too. I just realized that.
Yeah. I guess there's definitely different industries. You'll see more errors, like industries that tend to have higher turnover, for example, will maybe have more issues with, eligibility and just maybe like compliance problems and things like that, than, a stable, we have employees for a long time type industry. That's kind of what comes to mind maybe with that question. But I'm just trying to think in terms of.
I think you answered the question that I should have asked, which is really, let's make the assumption that people are trying to do the right thing. Yeah. Right. Again, with legal, it's a little bit different, because your risk tolerance may vary according to industry for very good reasons, right? But there's still things that you're required to do. And so I'm just going to repeat back to what you said. I think it sounds to me like what you're seeing is that different industries have different challenges depending on their workforce.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of putting it, is that,
Okay.
you know, different types of workforces have different issues that they face, you know, with that. And then that's, of course, where plan design is very important, right? You know, so, you know, where we've seen where a plan is designed not well at all, where, you know, they might have very high turnover, and for some reason they've set up their plan to have, you know, eligibility be, you know, after a month or something like that. And it's like, no, you shouldn't do that, right? You know, like if you've got really high turnover, you should have it be like a year or something like that, you know, that kind of thing. And then they're dealing with a nightmare of, you know, people coming in and out of the plan, and, you know, then they've got, you know, compliance, you know, they've got issues where the highly compensated people, you know, basically don't get to keep any of their money in the plan, of course, right? Because all these people are not, they're coming and going from the plan, and, you know, it's like, why do they even have the plan if they're, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I don't know if that really answers your question, but
No, it's great. I mean, everything you're saying is giving us a little bit of a deeper, you know, look into what you're doing every day, and the challenges that you face and the questions people are asking themselves. So we're going to wrap up soon. This has been an incredible discussion, but I'd like to close with what I think is an important question from your perspective as a CPA. What's the piece of advice, best practice that you would give these businesses that are required to have a benefit plan audit? So they've got a certain number of employees. They're going to need a team like Smith and Howard. What's your best advice for that plan or that company to ensure that they're going to be doing the things they need to be doing from your perspective as a CPA?
So make sure that they have good service providers. Probably would be one thing I would say. Make sure that they have, you know, make sure that they're looking at their service providers, and that they have appropriate controls in place and things like that, and that they have the appropriate team in-house maybe to manage the plan, and that they're not just completely relying on the third party, you know, service providers to manage the plan, because we see that a lot too, where maybe the in-house the people at the plan sponsor maybe think that, you know, oh, I've got this plan and I've got my third party service provider, and so it just kind of runs itself, you know, that kind of thing, where it's not, you know, you got to do something, you know, that kind of thing. So make sure that you have the proper systems and controls in place in-house as well.
Not to just let those service providers do what they do and then have no oversight, and then trust that it's
like
done properly.
Yeah.
Because then we will be calling HBL, right? And we may be calling you as well.
Yeah, it's not just on autopilot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so make sure you have the right good service providers, and that you have the right controls and in place, and that you understand what your fiduciary responsibilities are too. That's probably a big one. And that goes kind of hand in hand with what we were just talking about, like that it's not just autopilot. Like, you do have fiduciary responsibilities that you have, even if you think that you're outsourcing them, you still are responsible, you know, in the end. So make sure that you know what they are, right?
If we end every podcast with those words, I'd be happy to end. You can't abdicate your fiduciary responsibility as a plan sponsor, right? And so often when we get a call from you, Aaron, or from a plan sponsor, it's because they have trusted but not verified something with a vendor. And so that is fantastic advice to close on. Aaron, this has been a great discussion. Thank you for sharing your insights on the role of the CPA in employee benefit plan oversight. Your perspective on financial compliance and regulatory challenges is very valuable for the others in the ecosystem, our in-house counsel, our HR leaders, other attorneys out there who want to know what you do better. So I would just say thank you so much, Aaron. And I'd also like to thank Hall Benefits Law for sponsoring the podcast. And for those of you tuning in, please join us next time when we'll be discussing success stories in counsel and leadership collaboration with another outstanding guest. Aaron, have an awesome day.
Thank you.